Cuba, it's me. Welcome to episode 338 of the W.I.L.L.I.W show, which stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. Today on the W.I.L.L.I.W show, I want to talk about things in wrestling that make you go, ew. Nasty stuff. Stuff that makes your stomach turn. Makes you feel like you may want to throw up or get a little sick. To me, there's been a couple of things over the years. Whenever the Nasty Boys used to rub their armpits in their opponent's face, like the pit stop plunge or whatever, man, that would make me. Because I already have a weak stomach. Like, I get car sick really easy. I'm a very picky eater because I have a weak stomach. And just the way the Nasty Boys looked, I could just imagine that they stunk. They looked like they stunk really bad. And then they didn't look like they wore a lot of deodorant, and then just smearing their armpit in the guy's face. That had to possibly be one of the worst moves ever in wrestling that someone could have to suffer through. And I just feel really bad for everybody who ever did. And I'm sure if they didn't like someone, I'm sure that they didn't made sure not to shower before the match. And then that brings me to, it's a close tie with this one, the Rikishi stink face. I mean, so many superstars have had to deal with the stink face. That cannot be pleasant. I mean, look at the things that wrestlers will do to entertain a crowd. Not only will they put their bodies through a lot of bumps and bruises and a lot of injuries, and just the list goes on, but to also be willing to have an armpit wiped in your face, or Rikishi's big stink ass rubbing right in your face, like, oh man. I'm kind of glad that I never had to wrestle either of those guys, or the Nasty Boys or Rikishi. And then there's like the legendary stories of Andre the Giant. Like, I think it was Jake the Snake on the one show was talking about how, it might not have been Jake, I thought it was, but whatever. How Andre sat on him and like let out the longest fart for like a minute. Or I think, I can't remember, I think it was Bad News Allen or Bad News Brown, whatever you want to call him, and I could be wrong, but I know this did happen, that Andre had the one guy in the corner and he had a wet fart and it went all over the guy. Like, oh man, so there's some pretty nasty Andre the Giant ones, and even to people that were on his good side. Imagine if you weren't on his good side. I can only imagine some of the things that I don't know. Like, these are just a few of the ones that I've heard about. Another thing that used to always make my stomach turn is some of the stuff the head shrinkers did. Like, the manager would be chewing on like a raw chicken bone. And okay, that was bad enough. But then I've seen a couple vignettes. I'm pretty sure it was the head shrinkers. It must have been. I think it was when it was Fatu and Barbarian instead of Samu and Fatu. And they were like eating deodorant. Now, it couldn't have been real deodorant. Or could it? Because, oh, I can just think about the taste and the chunks getting stuck in your teeth. Oh, it makes me upset. It's a good thing I'm not planning on eating right now doing this episode. But yeah, those are some of the nasty stuff I've seen on TV. There's tons more, but I left it open so the viewers could come through. I left the floor open, and hopefully there's tons more, and this gets a lot of comments. So there's some ones that I've witnessed personally, not just watched on TV. Like, when I was training at the wrestling school in like 2000 and 2001 at the Hart Brothers School in Cambridge there, we had a lot of big boys. And a lot of the guys were doing protein shakes, eating raw eggs, eating tuna, and man, sometimes it got nasty in there. And then, like, if it was the summer, you'd open the window and it would do nothing. Like, so you got like 5 jack guys, and then a couple little guys like me that are non-stop farting, and it's like nasty gas. It's like, oh, it's like horrendously horrible gas. And then plus you're getting a workout, so you're getting winded, so it's hard to breathe, so you're like taking deep breaths. Man, sometimes it was deadly in there. Oh man, I can just remember this one guy car wreck, and he had the worst gas. And there was times too when the Highlanders were both pretty nasty with their protein shake gas, and oh man, that they could clear a room out, but then you still had to practice for 2 hours, and there was nowhere for it to go, and it just kept piling on. It's like piling stink on top of stink on top of stink on top of stink. And then you got me farting too, and like, I never ate anything healthy back then, and I was trying to do protein shakes like the guys, and everybody stunk. And then there's the body odor. Like, for me, I would work all day, and then I have to go wrestle. Like, I didn't have time to shower. I'd have to shower after, and then other people would be that same. So everybody's stinky and sweaty from all day, and we're training at like 7 o'clock at night, mixed with the nasty gas. It just, oh man, it was over the top at sometimes. And then I've wrestled a couple people that had some pretty nasty gas. I've also been with a couple females who left a lasting impression on me. But I remember this one time. It was somewhere in the States. We went for this trip, and I can't remember if it was Buffalo. I think it was Buffalo. I don't know, but it was somewhere in New York State. And we were across the border. At this point, we were managed to do quite a few shows across the border and stuff like that. And it wasn't one of the OSPW ones. We did a lot of OSPW, but it wasn't that one. And I wrestled this guy, and he was a big guy. And I'm pretty sure I was the first match. And he really stunk, like really bad. And he had me in a headlock too. And I'm just like, please. And he did this move to me, and I've never done this ever in any other match, but I was like, take it home. I was like, oh, I hurt my ankle. Just hit your finisher, pin me. And he's like, oh my God, are you okay? And he was like a really nice guy. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt you? I was like, no, when I turned and hit the rope, so I'm like selling to this guy, like working the worker, like, oh, like in the backstage, like, oh, my ankle. Sorry, man. Sorry the match had to get called. And it was a horrible match to begin with, so there wasn't that many people in the audience, so it wasn't like I wasn't feeling like I was letting anybody down, but he just stunk so bad. I was like, abort mission, let me out of here. It was horrible. Another time we were doing a show in Niagara Falls, and I can't remember, it might have been one where Hacksaw was there or not. So we had like this back change room. It was like just basically a stage with a curtain in front of it, and like to go to the bathroom, you'd have to like go through the audience, or you'd have to like go out the back door and then go all the way around, come through the front door, and then it was like right where the audience was, where the doors were. I don't think there was no bathroom in the backstage. So I don't know whose great idea it was, but one of the wrestlers pissed down the stairs. There was like a stairwell going down to, I guess it was like a basement or storage area. I don't know, because I didn't go down there. I almost did. So anyway, it was a fun game. Everyone had to contribute their piss down the stairs, and I almost went down there. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go get changed down here or something, or I had to make a private phone call. I can't remember. This was like in 2005 or 6, and I'm just glad someone warned me, because I could only imagine the stairs were covered in piss. And they were slippery or so, and I didn't notice because it was somewhat dark. So I was just about to walk down there, and I'm sure I would have slipped and rolled all the way down the piss stairs. But luckily, someone was in a nice mood and not in a ribbing mood, and it was like, hey, don't go down there. There's pee all down there. Oh my God. And I'm just glad no one shit. Like I'm really glad no one crapped, because it already stunk really bad. I don't know whose idea it was, but everyone seemed to join in on the festivities. And then probably the grossest one was, a lot of my grossest stories have to do with Ike Shaw. Now, if you want, check out, I've done 4 or 5 Ike Shaw videos, and he's quite a character, not to mention quite a disgusting man. And there's some really funny stories on the Ike Shaw Facebook page. But anyway, if people don't know, Ike Shaw was the guy that convinced me. He was like the owner of the Hart Brothers Wrestling School in Cambridge, and he was a big, huge, disgusting man that only showered like once a month maybe. He chain smoked like 3 packs of cigarettes a day, and he barely changed his clothes. He peed his pants a lot. He was just unbearable. So anyway, there goes the story. One time, one of the Highlanders was teaching a class, was training us, because they had gone and learned a lot of stuff, so they were like leading the practice. I think it was Rory McAllister. And so we're doing the practice, and so, like, everybody that's been around the school for a long time knows, like, don't talk to Ike. Don't get him going. Just let him say whatever he's going to say and let him get out of there. Well, there was a newer student at the time who didn't know how to shut up. And so Ike was coming in, and Ike was a notorious liar. He never ever did any of the things that he said he did. And he was talking about how he used to stretch so-and-so and how he was such a good grappler and this and that. And so the kid who didn't know the unspoken code amongst the trainees there was like, oh, I'd love to see that. And everyone's are just like, no. So Ike decided he was gonna teach this kid a lesson. So Ike somehow got into the ring. Like, he got stuck in the ropes and he somehow got into the ring. And he was going like this, like trying to get the kid to lock up. But the kid was new. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. And so anyway, Ike finally lunged at him, and the kid like was like, "Ah!" and he just like flopped on his belly. So Ike is on top of him, and he's like huge man, and he's got him like in the front face lock, and he's just grinding, and he was wearing these gray shorts with no underwear and really baggy shorts. They used to be like sweatpants or whatever. And so he's laying there, and his nuts like flopped out, and his nutsack was like this long. Like, they were just hanging there as these nuts. Like, here's his penis, and his nuts are down here. So he's laying on the mat, and his nuts are just hanging out there. So I think it was Rory McAllister was like, Ike, can you please explain your positioning in this hole? Like, and so he would take every one of us who, if we hadn't seen it, and he'd walk us around and be like pretending to be like pointing out Ike's great technique, where all Ike was doing was sprawl on the guy, and he was trying to explain, or pretending to explain, oh, well, the reason Ike's doing it this way, and he was walking around so everyone could get a glance, and then everyone's like, oh, I'm pretty sure someone actually puked, and we laughed about that for hours and hours. I have many more disgusting Ike Shaw stories, but I'm gonna leave it at that, because the cameraman's bedtime. So, what are some of the grossest things you've seen in wrestling? Some nasty things that make you go ooh, disgusting things that make you want to vomit. We've all been there. Even if you're just a fan, I'm sure you've seen some stuff, or maybe you actually had something like that happen to you if you're a wrestler. So let's hear it, because I love hearing the comments on the Willow Show. And like, or you get a leg drop. Comment, or you get a clothesline. Subscribe, or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba!